What are your thoughts on all the craziness that's happening on campus with the safe spaces, the trigger warnings, the microaggressions, the political correctness? Uh,
have no sympathy or patience for the trigger warnings, this hyper solicitousness. Um, what I tell my students is, um, if I don't sort of shock you or offend you in this course, I'm not doing my job.
right.
Why are you here if not to be um, shaken out of some of your preconceptions? Hang on and grow up and take it on the chin. Um,
I'm liking you more by the second, Dan.
but having said that, I also think that gratuitous uh, hazing or poking or making fun of people is just awful, and I will uh, condemn it whenever I see it. But I don't think we need rules for that.
Got you. Last question. So, one of the things that I see in navigating through the ecosystem of academia is the extraordinary amount of herd mentality. So, for example, if I go to my my private, my personal Facebook page, everybody is perfectly in agreement on every single possible political issue. There's almost zero variation, and that simply can't be possible, right? I mean, you just have to expect that on death penalty, some people who are otherwise called academics might agree with it and others that might not, right?
Yeah,
And so because of this lack of intellectual slash political diversity, you do get the proverbial echo chamber where you then get this tribal mindset so that any issue, I mean, you may hate, for example, Donald Trump, and you may think he's a bad outcome and bad consequences to the United States, but this idea of nuanced thinking is completely lost. I, on the other hand, will often weigh in. I don't know how much you follow my positions, but I'm somebody who weighs in very forcefully, many times putting me at odds with my colleagues, not so much because I necessarily support the opposite position, and not to be frivolously contrarian, but rather because what drives me is, if you'd like, the integrity of the pursuit of truth, right? The aesthetics of truth. Don't be a hypocrite. Be honest in your
this
arguments. What do you think
this
of that?
no this you've put very well something which has bothered me a lot since the Vietnam War. It back in the '60s when I was devoting huge percentage of my time and energy, probably too much, but didn't. How could it be too much to trying to stop the war? I was about as passionate about the anti-war movement as you could be, and I never solved the problem of what to do about others who were equally passionate, who were saying really stupid things. And did I button my lip and let them blackmail the rest of us into making claims which I knew were false? Or was I this troublemaker, letting down the side critic who shouldn't be saying these things in public? I think that is one of the great moral problems facing just about everybody today. My, I dare say there are lots of Republican Congress people, senators and representatives right now, who are losing a lot of sleep over whether they should quietly button their lips and let the Trump administration do some of the things it's doing. At what point do they have to stand up, let the chips fall where they may, and say no in as loud and forceful a way as they can? I would be astonished if that wasn't true.
Is the reason that people can't do that ultimately is because they're succumbing to our innate proclivity to engage in coalitional thinking. Therefore, I'm a member of the blue team, and therefore I will go to the death supporting every argument of the blue team, for I could not concede one to the red team. Is that as simple as
No,
that?
I don't think so. You may be right, but my view is that this is a perplexity. This is a difficulty that arises in the most completely dispassionate and rational circumstance. That is, take a bunch of rational angels who are doing battle, a public relations battle, not war, but we're trying to persuade a difficult to persuade majority not to go ahead with something. If some of their members are using dubious tactics, are using rhetoric which is probably counterproductive, are simply making up stuff, what do? Even if you're on the side of truth, can you button your lip and let falsehoods fly sometimes, because they're more likely to support truth in the end? I mean, I don't think there are easy answers to those questions.